Call to order this regular Board of Directors meeting for the Siloam Springs Board of Directors, February 16th, 2021. Roll call.
Here.
Here.
Just ripped it off.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
At this time, Director Allen will lead us in a word of prayer. If you will stand with us and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here safely tonight to look after the public management of the city of Siloam Springs and look after everyone going home, as well as the citizens of our entire community as we face the worst inclement weather in quite some time. Please look after everyone and get them home safely and keep everyone safe over the next several days. We ask these things in Jesus Christ's name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next item is the public input. The public may address the Board of Directors regarding any item on the consent agenda or any city business not listed on the board's regular agenda. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the board at this time? Yes, sir. Please come forward, state your name, address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Todd Varnado. I live at 217 West Benton Street here in Siloam Springs. And Madam Mayor and board and fellow constituents here of Siloam Springs, I really just wanted to ask some questions and bring up a subject that I'm not sure if it's in the minutes. I haven't had a chance to review them yet, but something that lots of people have been asking about. There's lots of social media, questioning going around just with the situation, obviously the cold weather and the situation with having to shut off power. I was first made aware of it by a text I got at just before 10 p.m. on Sunday night. Got a phone call and then a text that said the following, basically that they were recommending that we reduce our heat down to 68 degrees. And I didn't think much about it. Hey, yep, that makes sense. It's cold. And then I believe it was yesterday or Tuesday, Monday, I drove over to Walmart to get some things we needed, and it was my son's birthday, and there's a couple things we needed. And I was met by an associate in the parking lot that said that they were closing the store. They would not let me in, and the reason was because the city was shutting off their power to try and conserve energy. So, it just seems very strange, the whole situation, and I'd like just to maybe discuss it, ask some questions. When was this decided? How was it communicated? And, I may be wrong, but it just seemed like there wasn't a whole lot of foresight. We all looked at the forecast a while ago and knew it was going to be very cold. And then the second issue is there's many of us that live in old houses. We've restored several houses in Siloam Springs with our company, Right Street Renovations, and lots of people who live on Delaware Street, whose homes wouldn't even get to 68 with their air running or their heat running nonstop. I'm trying to talk fast to get a lot in my 3 minutes. I talked to Larkin Mechanical earlier today, and they broke their record on service calls on Monday, I believe it was, and then broke it again today. And so, turning off the heat, it requires a lot of energy to restart the heat, to get the house, to heat a house from cold to, versus it just maintaining. So just wanted to have a discussion, ask questions, and see the reasoning and, behind all that. I get that we, get our power from GRDA. Just lots of questions I wanted to ask and have a conversation on behalf of everyone in town. So to try to get as much transparency as possible for how this works. We get our power from them, what it costs, the reasoning behind it. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Varnado. And normally we do not respond during this time, but because of the situation being what it is, we know that a lot of our citizens do have questions. Our city administrator is going to share some of that information with us. Philip?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is definitely uncharted waters and an unprecedented time. The city of Siloam Springs gets its power from GRDA. GRDA is controlled by the Southwest Power Pool, which is a larger federal energy regulation commission, for lack of a better term. It covers the electrical grid for either 14 or 17 states. I've seen two different numbers. They manage how the electricity that is generated in this large area is spread out. I've seen some posts that says we don't understand why there's this problem. In the northern states, they don't have this problem, and they're correct. In the southern states, the producers of electricity, the gas wells, aren't designed to deal with week-long zero temperatures. A lot of the major electric producers have moved to using natural gas to create electricity. Natural gas wells in Texas and in Oklahoma are frozen. The demand for natural gas, because most of us use natural gas to heat our houses, greatly increased. So that demand is hurting the ability for electrical, those who produce electricity using natural gas to be able to do that. Holland, can you move slightly one way or the other? Thank you. So Saturday morning, actually Friday night, I got notified that the Southwest Power Pool may require controlled service interruptions. And we started talking on Saturday morning. My days have run together, so I'm going to try to timeline this as best I can. But we started having a discussion. If we are required by GRDA, who is going to be required by the Southwest Power Pool to have service interruptions, how are we going to do that? Who are the largest electrical consumers in this city? And that's who we should focus on. So there are basically three large circuits that come into this city from GRDA. One of them basically provides electricity to the industries within the city. They are the large electrical consumers. So we started having discussions with them on Saturday morning that there is the possibility that we may have to shut off power to you for approximately an hour at some point. We go into Sunday, and trust me, there was a lot of conversations with those managers and the CEOs of them. My phone was ringing off the wall. We were asking everybody, I believe by Saturday, Holland was posting asking everybody to conserve energy, that it was important to conserve energy. Sunday afternoon, Sunday late, I believe, Southwest Power Pool went into a level 1 emergency, which said basically it is highly likely that we are going to require at some point this service interruption. Monday morning, I think it was, they went to level 2, and around 11:30, 12 o'clock, somewhere along in there, they went to level 3. We got notice that we were going to have a service interruption on the one circuit that feeds the industries, and it was going to happen immediately. We begged and pleaded with GRDA to give us an hour, so instead of 1 o'clock, it went to 2 o'clock. We had notified all of the large power users almost 48 hours in advance that this was likely. At 10 minutes till 2 on Monday, GRDA said it's the system, according to the Southwest Power Pool, has been stable, has stabilized, and we're going to back off. You're not going to have to shut a circuit off, Siloam. Circuits had been shut off in Miami, and Wagner, Oklahoma, and Skiatook. I think that's how you say it. Excuse me? Skiatook, excuse me. GRDA is looking at every one of their municipalities to say, we're going to expect you to curtail consumption. We're going to expect you to curtail consumption. We're going to expect you, and they're rolling from one city to the next so that nobody is severely impacted. And the purpose of this is to prevent a large blackout like you see right now in Dallas and in Houston. It's 4 million people in the state of Texas that hadn't had power in 4 days. And this is their attempt to try to prevent that. So we got through Monday. Monday afternoon, I get a text from Phil that says 10 o'clock tonight. Looks like we're going to go back to level 3 and we're going to have to throw the switch. So we notify those large power users again. My phone rings like crazy because nobody likes to be told they got to shut their mechanical operations down. They got to shut their boilers down. It costs them lots of money. 10 o'clock rolls around, we're good. About 6:30 this morning, maybe not even that late in the morning. It was probably maybe even 6:45. I get a text from Phil that says it's level 3. We got to turn power off. All right, we got to do it. That's the one circuit to the big users. We flip the switch. There's going to be some residents in there. It's on the east side of town. That's where we are. Sometime after 6:52, I don't have the exact time, but call it about 7:20, I get a call from the hospital. Their backup generator did not kick on. They have no power. Come to find out, their backup generator, the diesel congealed. The diesel fuel congealed. The backup generator isn't working. I called Phil and said, Phil, we got to find something to do. We got to find some way to put them back on power. We cannot have the hospital without power. The only option for us to do at that moment in time was to make a quick decision, a fast decision, which was to turn everybody else off in the city and turn the power back on to the large power consumers. There was no time to provide any notification to the host city. We had to think of something quickly to do. The original power shutdown for the large users started at 6:52. I think we posted at 7:15 that we had gone into level 3. At 7:41, we turned the power back on to them, and the rest of the city was turned off at 7:39. One of the circuits came back on at 8:06, and the one that was off the longest of the second shutdown was at 8:10. For 31 minutes. We regret that we had to do anything at all. But as I stated earlier in this presentation, this is uncharted water. This is unprecedented times. In my discussion, and we put out some information just recently through Code Red, when I talked to GRDA today about it, they have not seen anything like this in 80 years. I think 1930s is when they came online, so it's almost 90 years. Nobody's had to deal with this. We had to make fast decisions quickly to try to prevent the city and the whole system in this 14 to 17 states from getting too unstable. And decisions had to be made, and had to be made quickly. We were all without power at some point this morning. Everybody in the city of Siloam Springs was without power at some point this morning. We regret that we couldn't call everybody and say, hey, you've got 30 minutes. The reality is when Southwest Power Pool calls GRDA, they expect GRDA within 5 minutes to figure out which circuits they're going to turn off. And all we're doing is trying to tell GRDA which circuits are the ones that we want turned off. So it happened fast, it happened quickly, decisions had to be made. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions. I'll be happy to speak to you tomorrow if you want to have a discussion about it. But those decisions had to be made. Our original goal in turning off the large power users were two things. One, we get the biggest reduction in consumption of power, and we also affect the least number of residents in that particular circuit. So that was the goal. That was the reason we tried to do it. If I had the time and we knew exactly that this was coming and we had a month to plan, we would have been able to map out and figure out every resident and every address on that circuit and be able to tell them, okay, you've got an hour, you've got an hour and a half. I had plant managers begging for an hour and a half notice before we shut them off because they have certain boilers that takes that long to safely shut them down. We could not give them that notice. So that's where we are. I will tell you that the latest from GRDA is that the Southwest Power Pool system looks stable currently tonight, but it is likely that we may have to have another service interruption tomorrow morning. I've already notified those large power users. Phil's staff today, which I commend highly, the electric department in this city there is none that can compare to the guys working for this city. And that goes for the street crews and everybody in public works that worked 12-hour shifts starting Saturday night all day, Sunday and Monday. They are committed to this city to doing everything they can to keep the roads clean and to keep the system up and running. But in this particular time when we have systems that are unstable, we have to do our part. And our part was to find a way to lower the demand on the electrical grid. And we're not the only ones. I've got messages here from planned power outages due to winter storm. This was February 15th at 4:25 p.m. Electric companies that serve the state did rolling power outages in an effort to conserve electricity, per the request of the agency that manages the electrical grid for the central U.S. SWEPCO did interrupted service to Fayetteville, Bentonville, Lincoln, and Rogers. Oklahoma OG&E, Oklahoma Gas and Electric, they did power outages that lasted some cases up to 4 hours. The Electrical Cooperatives of Arkansas have asked people to voluntarily limit their power usage through midnight Tuesday. This was updated on February 15th at 9:41 a.m. Electrical demand is at an all-time peak and is exceeding or nearly exceeding capacity. Arkansas Division of Emergency Management on Monday said that gas companies are asking residents to conserve energy. This is an unprecedented time. We urge electrical cooperative members to immediately reduce the electrical requirements by turning off and using non-essentials. I thought there was one more. I know that Entergy in Central Arkansas has had to do the same, and CenterPoint Natural Gas Company in Central Arkansas has had to do the same. So I wished we could have had time to process a better plan, but we were working on the fly. And again, I'll be happy to answer any questions. If you want to call me tomorrow, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may think of. You know how to get in touch with me. Madam Mayor, that's what I have.
Thank you, Philip. And Mr. Vonderdoe, thank you for being here and for asking questions so that we could let our citizens know. Sure.
I want to say thank you for addressing it, because I didn't come as an accusatory thing. I just, we just didn't understand why it was so rushed and why it was, we didn't have any communication.
Absolutely.
So it sounds to me like the real issue is with GRDA and our requirement in, I guess, our contract with them or whatever. If I can say one thing just to alleviate some suspicion, if that's okay. One of the thoughts or suspicions, and there's been a lot of complaint about utility pricing, that our pricing is high compared to other towns, this, that, and the other. I've never compared it. I don't know. We just pay our bill. But one of the suspicions that I heard was that this was in an effort to try and save the city money. And so if you can address that just to relieve that suspicion, I mean, that would be awesome. I'm not accusing you of that. That's just what I heard and what people are saying. And so to try and, if there's a way to, the theory was that we had like a data plan, basically, similar to a cell phone plan, where if you go over a certain amount, then, you have to pay more or something. And so that's where I think people are like, you just don't know what's going on. That's all. So I appreciate you addressing it. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's always information out there on our websites, and Holland will be getting that out into social media so that we'll make sure everyone does know. Thank you. Is there anyone else? If not, the next item is our consent agenda. Item A, regular meeting minutes from February 2nd, 2021. Item B, budget amendment, administration, electric vehicle charging station, $12,000. Item C, Arkansas Municipal League, Municipal Legal Defense Program, opioid case, settlement authorization agreement. Item D, purchase, Public Works Department, Street Division, 2021 John Deere Dozer, Stribling equipment, $206,688.10. This is a budgeted item. Item E, purchase, Public Works Department, Street Division, 2021 Pad Foot Soil Compactor from Riggs Cat, $128,904, also a budgeted item. Item F, dedication of utility easements and right-of-way, 2600 block of South Elm Street. Item G, dedication of utility easements and right-of-way, 300 and 400 block of North Hico Street. Board, is there any items that you would like to have removed from this agenda?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I have a question about a couple of purchases, but this is a general question, so I don't really want to take those off, but I do want to take B off.
All right.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to take D and E off.
Okay. Anyone else?
Also had B, but Mindy said B, right?
Yes, she did.
B as in boy, all right.
Yes. Anyone else? If there is not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Thank you. So at this time, Director Hunt, item B, you have requested to be pulled, and you said you have a question about this. Is that correct?
I have some discussion about that, or some comments about that, and then when we get to the other items that Director Allen pulled off, I can ask my question then. It has to
Okay.
do with the bidding process that I just think would be helpful information to state.
Sure.
So under item B, the charging station, I got a couple of emails from people. One was in favor of it, but not the location, thought it would be better at the police department. I explained we had discussed that as an option, but that would be better for the fast charging rather than the one that we are eligible to get a rebate for. Another citizen contacted me with some comments that I'll kind of turn into questions. Her concern is that sometimes free doesn't really mean free, and that the site's going to have to be maintained. So I guess one question is how much maintenance is expected. Another question she had specifically was how does something like this benefit the citizens of our city? A little concerned that it may take away parking spaces. So a question would be how many parking spaces do we have at the library? So is there a real concern with this taking up spaces from our library patrons? Do we expect local citizens to use this station at the library or travelers? Because there's the concern that travelers would have a hard time finding it, or wouldn't want to meander off the highway to use it. Philip and I have had some discussion about this, but I wanted to bring it up here too. And then a question has come up, and I think it came up at our last meeting, in fact. There's this thought out there that there is a charging station already at the casino. So if there is one, I think this particular person felt like if there's one at the casino, why would we need one here? But I don't think that that's been confirmed that there is one at the casino. So those are really just some questions that were posed to me that I said I would share with the board.
Thank you. Philip, would you like to address that?
I can count, if you give me a minute, on how many parking spaces are at the library, but there are a large number of parking spaces at the library, and this would account for 2. They would be in the first parking lot that's immediately across the street from the library, and what would be, there's 2 parking lots across the street from the library. You have one on the west side and one on the sort of the east side. This would be in the one on the west side in the northeast corner, so that you could, those 2 parking spaces right there. And I was hoping somebody was texting me on the number of parking spaces at the library.
Have we ever had a problem with the library parking being at capacity?
No, not
Okay.
to my knowledge.
Okay.
The maintenance depends on which system we go with. The one that is the forefront today, within that $12,000, we can purchase a 3-year maintenance agreement and a 3-year software agreement for the cellular package. And that would cover all of the maintenance. If anything goes wrong, they come and deal with it.
For 3 years?
At the end of the 3 years, we can extend that for approximately a couple of $1,000 for both of those packages, which would be what I would propose to do at the end of 3 years. The strings that are attached to the grant is that we have to maintain that system for 5 years, or if we don't, then we owe a prorated share back to the state. So the idea from the 12,000 was to keep it within a reasonable amount. If we spent the 12,000 and we got 9,500 back from the state, you're out about $2,500.
And that 12,000 would cover that initial 3-year maintenance agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
What was the other?
I think a general question that she had was, how does this benefit citizens? That's a pretty broad question, and I'm not sure if the intention is to find out if this is going to benefit our Siloam citizens or people coming to the city, or, I mean, you can answer it how.
Well, and we discussed a little bit about it 2 weeks ago, and I think in that discussion, we generally answered that question. But, you know, the idea is, even though we may not see a lot of true pure electric vehicles on the roads today, I think, you know, we're seeing more and more of them in the state, at least based on the numbers that I provided 2 weeks ago. There is the opportunity for citizens with you know, pure electric vehicles to use it. There's also the opportunity for travelers to use it. It would be uploaded to a online map, and that would show that, you know, it's there. It would show you whether or not it's being used or not. This is not a fast charging station. It will take, you know, a couple of hours to get a full charge. The idea at the library is, if somebody wanted to park there and get a full charge, then they could go to the library and you know, read a book or you know, pass their time at the library, versus if you set it up at the police station, what do you do for those 2 hours? So that's kind of the thought process. Plus, if we do decide to go after the grant, this is a rebate program, but if we do go after the grant for a fast charging station that hopefully the State Department of Environmental Quality will issue sometime this year, the idea is that those fast charging stations in that grant application process will probably be prioritized on locating those fast charging stations on heavily traveled corridors, highway corridors, because they're really the ones that cross-state travelers are looking for, because they can charge in like 30 minutes. So as we discussed 2 weeks ago, the idea of putting one at, I think Director Allen's comment was the police department, but because we don't have many public spaces up and down the highway, as I talked about, we looked at the visitor center. But that's that option if we decide to go that route, if you decide to go that route. The idea of a local one is so that, again, residents can use it if they wish, travelers can use it if they wish, but it won't be free. There will be a charge for it. It'll slightly probably be a little higher than what the normal electrical charge is to help cover some of that cost. But that's generally the thought process. So based on the information that I received from the board 2 weeks ago, we continue to review very diligently the various multitude of products that are out there, and we identified 3 that we thought would work very well for our use. And subject to the board's approval, we're ready to move on that. Again, this is a rebate program. There's no guarantee that we spend the money, we get the rebate. We have to spend the money, we have to install it, and then we apply for the rebate. So the only issue that I have in this, if we're gonna go forward, it's better the quicker we can go forward, because the quicker we are, the higher the likelihood of getting the rebate is. So I hope that answers those questions.
And have we been able to confirm if there is one at the casino?
I was told by a casino employee today that there was not one at the casino.
Okay. And I understand we did talk about this as a board a couple of years ago, or a couple of weeks ago. It's after that information is then put in the paper that then the citizens are aware of it and they start contacting us. So I do feel like when they do have those questions, because they've seen that information, then it's definitely worth bringing it up again. So that helps answer those questions. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I've also got some questions. And I think this is a great idea. I was glad that the city looked into it. I think we all recognize that electric vehicles, or EVs as people call it, are the future. It's just how soon will it be our future? Seeing the information in the memo from Mr. Patterson, there are, as of 2019, now that's a year and a half ago, there's only 804 all-electric vehicles in the entire state of Arkansas. I don't know how many are in Siloam, and I think the question, and I think it's fine for us to be considering this in that it is a first come, first serve. So if we're going to do it, we need to make a decision. So I appreciate that, Philip. I think it's like you're making us aware of it, and I appreciate that. But as Mindy said, there, you then have citizens make points that really had not even come to mind. And one of the residents was pointing out that the only place, in fact, I'll just read what she said, the only place this thing makes any sense is if it is on Highway 412 within walking distance to other amenities. Why does the city always feel obligated to take free money? Sometimes that's helpful, sometimes it seems silly. Remember those free bike lanes. This seems like another unnecessary project if we can't do it right and place it on the highway for travelers. That was the point I was gonna make, is we gotta decide who's our market. Is it for the people going through Siloam? Is it for the residents, or is it for both? Because if it's at the library, then I think you're appealing to the residents. If it's in the highway, if it's at the library, I think locally owned. If it's on the highway, then you're hoping to capitalize. And I think you said, Philip, that you would probably have a little higher for the fast charging because they can get it quicker, right? I think it's a higher expense to them. They pay a higher than the slow.
I don't know
Okay.
that, to be honest with
Okay.
you. What I
I
do
thought
know,
you said that at one time, but maybe not. I don't know.
what I do know is that in my discussions with the state a couple of years ago, when they first announced they were going to do these programs, and it's taken them this long to put it together, that the fast charging stations would be prioritized because it would be a grant, and the money would be provided on the front end based on, they basically told me we wouldn't have a chance if we weren't on an interstate. And I had to explain to them, Highway 412 is the third or fourth largest entry point in the state of Arkansas.
I just didn't know in terms of travelers, if it's not residents, so if we're able to charge a higher price for non-residents, then, that was my only point, is if it's on 412, then possibly that's an advantage to the city making some money. I don't know how many people in the city of Siloam have an all-electric vehicle, but I think if they do, they already have the ability to charge it at home, and so I don't think it makes a lot of sense to put it at the library or anywhere unless it's on the highway. I wonder if there's not a local business that would donate a piece of land that would allow it to be put there. The other thing that I have a real sincere concern about is that the technology is advancing so fast that I'm not sure we're going to be having the most efficient technology in 2 years with what we install, that there won't be something better in 2 years when there are 20 vehicles in the city of Siloam. The fact that many of us were a few days back were only able to name one person that we knew had a vehicle doesn't really lend itself to it being a really common thing. It will be, but I don't want us to get to shooting ourselves in the foot by putting something that will become obsolete quickly. And of course, there's no guarantee of a payback. There's no guarantee of getting the grant. And even if we get the grant, there's no guarantee that we would have enough usage of it to pay the difference. So, you know, I had 2 different constituents reach out and had a lot of the same points that Mindy mentioned. In fact, one of them said if it was adjacent to a hotel or restaurant or shopping area, it would be a win-win for the local businesses. So now you know what I know.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Yes.
Just one other thing, I just wanted to say that I do tend to agree that, and this is a little unusual in that it is about high tech and the future and things like that, but just because money is free, whether it from a foundation or a state or whatever, doesn't mean you always have to do it. Just because something can be done doesn't mean we should do it. This is a small investment, so it's not as worrisome to me. The only concern I really have is being obsolete quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
Thank you, Mindy, for bringing this up because you made some good points, and David too. One of the things I was asked, and I'm going to tell you how I answered it, and it may be wrong. And if I am wrong, Philip, you need to correct me, please, because I certainly don't want to give the citizens wrong information. But I was asked the same question about, well, if it's for local people, they can charge it at home. So my answer was, I always thought it was for more like people coming from Rogers or Fayetteville or somebody, and the library is a perfect spot that you can walk downtown, and this was just my answer, and it doesn't mean it's correct, that you can walk downtown, and there's lots of local businesses downtown, and you have the library, and you can walk up Mount Olive. I mean, they're starting to get more businesses up Mount Olive, and so I might be wrong on that, and if I am, correct me. And as far as Mindy's comment about free doesn't mean free, that brings up a good point, and I wasn't asked about this, but do we know, I mean, you're going to be charging for people to charge their vehicles. Do you know about what rates you're looking at, or?
My research shows that the average rate is somewhere between 14 and 25 cents kilowatt hour. I think we would probably be on the lower side, but that's what the research shows.
Yes.
When we first started discussing the electric charging stations, to me it sounded like a very good idea. I like when we are able to be on the forefront with not a lot of investment, and that we can add that to the quality of life for our citizens. But there's been some really good comments on it. I don't ever think anything is free. In my years, I have learned nothing is free. And there is maintenance, and there are upkeep. But I do like the idea of being on the forefront, but then when Director Allen talks about technology obsolete, and technology becomes obsolete very quickly. I'm tending to kind of change my mind of how I was thinking. But I do, one of the things that we talked about, and we gave our city administrator direction to look into this to give us more information. And that's what he has done.
Right.
That's what we asked for, and so now it's our job to make that determination. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can I ask a quick question about this fast charging? I understand there may be the possibility of applying for a grant. Whether we do this slow charging station now or not, we could potentially apply for a grant for a fast charging station later.
Correct.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
all valid points, and I agree. But recently, I guess I got labeled, and I'm not big into labels, but I had a older group of gentlemen that meet at a coffee shop, and they labeled me a progressive. So I think you know my answer. But Director Rissler was right on spot. It's local. We have a large Ford dealership. When you have power, that short period of time we didn't have it, but if you see what Ford's going, the direction that GM's going, these are all valid. It's the direction we're going. People that have EV vehicles and are using the app have to drive on destination. So they have to stop at that destination. When they stop and charge, I believe, specifically for Ward 2, which is that main thorough downtown, but just enlarge the downtown area, lights itself up when we're not -7, looking forward into spring, that sort of thing. We've created an environment to stop, charge your vehicle, and enjoy downtown. I run into people downtown that are from Tulsa, Grove, and from the corridor. They are not local, and they have retirement money, and they're out enjoying the day, and they chose on that specific day that I ran into these folks, and we're talking, over the past several years, they're spending money in Siloam Springs specifically because it's the destination. And that's what my thought was appealing to that. And I agree on the corridor, and I'm just glad we're having a conversation that even thinking about this. If you remember, we talked about it at the last board meeting. This came up 2 or 3 years ago. And so I'm just excited that the board's even considering it. I thank the staff for, doing the research. And you're 100% correct. We may not get it. But then again, we may get it. But it's kind of like the bike lanes. Not everybody rides a bike. I own a gas-guzzling big old truck. I don't have anything electrical. But I applaud those that do. We've discussed solar power in the past. We've agreed to disagree with some of the citizens. And here's something green. It is on the horizon. There's not a lot of people out there. But I think it'd be nice to see us ahead of the curve. All legitimate points, and thanks for the consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor, I've got one other point just brought up after thinking about what Mindy said a moment ago on applying for the grant. Philip, can you tell us, must we approve that we're going to do this before we apply for the grant? I mean, must we decide that we're definitely going to buy one and install it? Or is it contingent upon that you already do it before you get the grant? Can we apply for the grant before we've decided to do it and only do it if we get the grant?
No, sir. This is a rebate program.
Oh, a
So
rebate.
we have
Okay,
to,
that's right.
we have to spend the money, construct it. We have to prove to the state that it's built, that it's working, show proof of payment, show proof of working and then we can apply. All that goes with the application.
I thought that's what it was, but then Mindy asked, can we still apply? And so I got confused.
So the state has developed two programs. One is the level 2 rebate program, which is what this is.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is the fast charging grant program.
Oh, okay.
That one has not been opened yet. They have designed it, but that would be an application on the front end.
Okay.
And then you get the grant, you get approval for it. You may still have to spend the money and they reimburse you, but they haven't decided that one. But that would be one where you would have approval before you spend any money, because the cost of that is probably $30,000 to $40,000 for a fast charging station.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that they're going to pay for, I don't know yet. This one is a rebate program. They pay 90%, and then if it's a dual charging, which is what would make the most sense to do, they would rebate, I think it's $9,300 or $9,500 up. That'd be the max. So that's what,
Out of 12,000.
out of 12,000. The one that I think the one particular unit that seems to be at the top of the list of all the quotes that I've got is about I think roughly on round numbers $11,500. And so, if it's $9,500, we're out $2,000. I'm keeping a couple of hundred just to cover the cost of fill for any conduit or anything like that. But that's where we are, and you're exactly right. It's your decision. This is an opportunity that I brought forward that I thought you might want to consider, and I don't know. It has to be on public property. It has to be on public property. I love the idea of trying to find other property. I agree that it would be better if it was in a shopping district and an entertainment district where you could shop and dine and do all those things. That's not the police station.
Right.
I don't think that's in front of Walmart and Lowe's. So when we looked at this, trying to decide where was the best place, that's kind of it was either the library or City Hall. And I didn't think City Hall was as conducive to the public believing that they could use it as the library was. So that's how we zeroed in on that spot.
Well, I want to tell you, I appreciate you doing it, because this is part of your job description, is to make the board aware of programs that we otherwise would not know about. If I had my druthers, I'd say, yes, do this, and then shoot for the other one when it comes up. Because that one, the fast charger, would seem more appropriate to go on the highway. The slower one would be, we're not trying to trap people, but let it take as long as it takes for them to spend money downtown.
Kind of the thought process.
A tourist, out of town or whatever. So I understand now more about this thing here being the rebate and not necessarily the fast charging one, but it would be, now that other board members have brought up the opportunity, I should say, that if it were in the downtown area. I was sitting there saying, well, why should it be at the library? People that are driving through town are not going to go search out your library. They may go search out your historic downtown, but so I get it now. And I think we should, when that, keep your ear open when that does pop up, that's something, because that is a grant, that is an actual upfront, and you kind of know what you're getting beforehand. With this, we are simply trying to be first in line, because it's, as you said, first come, first serve. But I think it's a good idea. I have gone back and forth, obviously, but I think it's a good idea.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve item B, budget amendment for the electric vehicle charging station?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next, Director Allen, items D and E.
Yeah. I was hoping that I have had quite a few things asked of me, being the newbie, about the amount of spending that we've already been doing at the first of the year, and that there are not descriptive bids from multiple companies. So I was hoping for our viewing public that, Philip, can you explain the Sourcewell program? That maybe they can get it.
I can do my best, and Steve may have to help because I think he's maybe even more familiar than I am. So prior to being named Sourcewell, it was the National Joint Powers Alliance or something along those lines. And so it's a consortium of an entity that does go out and bid a litany of equipment that cities typically are interested in and buying. And joining one of these alliances eliminates the need to do individual bids because they already have done the bidding for you. So it fast tracks the process a little bit because therefore we don't have to advertise for a bidding and wait the 30 days and then, open up all the bids and go through that process. So before my time here in the city, I was aware of these alliances to purchase through contract bids that were already done, and many cities use that process rather than do individual bids. So that's the best way that I can describe it, Director Allen. I don't, Steve, if you want to add anything, or if you know of any additional information that would be helpful to describe that Sourcewell.
Steve Gorzak, Public Works Director. I think Philip did a good job of explaining it. It's an entity that does the bidding so that we don't have to.
I didn't know. I thought it was maybe a state program or something. I had no idea.
It's not unlike a state program. It's
Yeah.
not. I mean, when we buy vehicles like police cars and regular trucks,
Yeah.
we do it off state bid. The state bids that out for us.
That's why I thought Sourcewell was maybe a division of the state, but just a funky name.
It's not a division of the state. It's a separate entity, but they do all the bidding for, especially for large pieces of equipment like this.
Does the bid, do the companies that like Caterpillar is on one piece of equipment tonight and John Deere's another piece, do these companies offer their bid like at the beginning of the year and that bid lasts the entire year? Or does it change every 6 months, or how does that, how do we know that we're getting the bet? Like in October, if we were gonna buy something, how do we know we're not paying a January price?
Right.
By going through Sourcewell.
Well, it's largely because that's what this group does. We could, you mentioned Caterpillar. There's several different types of dozers that we can get, but this John Deere dozer was one that is going to be significantly less than if we had purchased it otherwise, even if we went out for bid. You brought up a good point about the state bid. We use the state bid primarily for vehicles, cars, pickups, that kind of thing. The sanitation division uses another entity that's known as the Houston-Galveston Area Council. That's where we get a lot of the trash trucks. We don't use Sourcewell for trash trucks generally, but for heavy equipment, we generally do not use Houston-Galveston because that's not their area. So that's why I believe on both of these, I left my notebook, but I believe on both of these they were Sourcewell.
Yeah, they are. Okay, the other question I've got is, like on the bulldozer that we are looking at, how long did the previous one last? I mean, my question is, what are the years of it? And just example, it says by your memo here, Steve, 2021 John Deere 700 dozer. This is a mid-sized dozer, ideal for all these different things. It'll complement our large dozer, which is great for big jobs, and the finish dozer that's used at the end of projects. My question is, why do we need 3? If we're replacing one, how long did the previous one last? How old are the 2 that we have now? Do we build more than one street at a time? I wonder why our 2 other dozers cannot suffice as it is. And then on the soil compactor, the next purchase, do we have other soil compactors? How many do we have?
I believe on both of those cases, not to put Dennis on the spot, but he'll be able to talk more educated about that because he uses that equipment all the time, so.
Well, I just didn't know if this was replacing one on our soil compactor, or if it's, like you said, on the other thing, complementing others that we have.
Yeah, these are all just complementing others that we already have. We won't be replacing either one.
Dennis, do we ever build more than one street at a time?
Yes, we have built more than one street at a time.
Okay.
Typically, I'm finishing up one and starting another one.
Okay.
The reason for the roller, I do have another roller, but it's a smooth drum.
Okay.
And
I noticed this one had teeth, and I wondered
We
if that was.
purchased a shell kit for that one, but it's extremely hard to put on, and so, and then there's the times that you're needing to do smooth drum rolling and still needing to do pad foot rolling.
Okay.
And so therefore, for the benefit of being able to keep the job moving,
Yeah.
we really need to get the pad foot so that we can do that. And when we start another job, that pad foot's needed at the beginning and the smooth drum's still used on the other job some. So,
That makes sense. I just, the real question I had was, in terms of equipment, was could the other 2 dozers not suffice, that we are having to add one? In terms of the Sourcewell program, I didn't understand why you have 2 different companies, like you have Deere. I mean, Caterpillar obviously builds, or you know, this is almost their specialty, bulldozers and large equipment. And John Deere's not so well known for the bigger things. And so the company, the Sourcewell, is it different for every piece of equipment, or?
it's a governmental program that's used, and the way I understand, just from purchasing from my salesman on the trucks, it's a set discount that you're given on this item and this item and this item, regardless of whether you're buying a Caterpillar, a Komatsu, or a John Deere, or a Case. It's a governmental savings across the board.
Okay.
So when they plug those numbers in, then this is how much discount you get for this. This is how much discount you get for that.
You guys can really choose whether you want a John Deere or a Caterpillar or whatever, based upon the amenities of different ones.
Yes, you
different
can.
pieces. Okay.
And
I-
that
I-
actually helps. Now, to answer your question on the dozers, I have 2 small dozers. I have a little 550 dozer and I have a 850 dozer. Now, those are cases, and that's why they're called 850s and stuff, but they're finished dozers.
Okay. Smooth,
And
the smooth.
yeah, for
Smooth roll,
dressing it
yeah.
up and doing the light work. Well, I came before the administrator 2 years in a row before this one, trying to get that dozer that I'm trying to get now, so that I can do more work in the rough area, and it's big enough that it crushes the red dirt rock, so that you can get better compaction and you can get less air in your road base and voids, because it does a better job with it.
That makes sense.
So that's the whole reason for that. And it cuts better when we're building a retention basin. We can get the dirt out quicker. Does that answer?
Yes. Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you answered a lot of questions.
Thank you, Dennis. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I just wanted to piggyback on that. Actually, my question was the same one as Director Allen's, and that is, can you explain Sourcewell bidding to us? And we got not only that, but the whole bidding process, which was very helpful. So thank you for that. The one question I still have, Steve mentioned that we go to different bidding sources for different kinds of things, but then we also do the bidding process that takes a little bit longer. So how do we decide which process to go through?
I think it depends on what we are purchasing. Obviously, if it's on state bid, we're gonna go there. Not everything we purchase necessarily is going to be on a Sourcewell program.
Okay.
The Sourcewell program and the Houston Galveston, I mean, these are these entities that came together that basically said, you know, you large equipment manufacturers, we're providing an outlet for municipalities, and if you want to be part of that, you've got to cut your price, and that's why it makes it so much less expensive to go that route. But, you know, if we're doing computers, or if we're doing let's see, if we were going to do a fast charging station that was at a price where we had to bid it, I don't know that there's a fast charging station on the Sourcewell price. I don't think there's, I'm sure there's not one on the state bid, so then we would have to go the formal bid process.
Okay.
I can
clarify something just a little bit on the state bid.
Mhm.
When you're buying a vehicle on state bid, it only goes up to a 1 ton.
Okay.
Anything
true.
above a 1 ton won't be on state bid.
Okay.
So then you go through the governmental bidding companies, or you wind up bidding it out on your own. And then, so your Sourcewell and your Houston Galveston, they're gonna do big trucks and equipment. I looked into Houston Galveston. On my end, they were mostly just big trucks, and they're further away than what I can purchase locally. So then you have fees to get it here. And
Speaking of fees, do we pay fees to these agencies that do the bidding for us? Or do they get it?
I know we're a member of it, but I don't
Okay.
think there's any fees associated
No,
with it
not to
that I
my
know.
knowledge.
No, there's not like a yearly membership, like a club or something?
I would have to check, but I don't believe so. I believe we have to make an application to become a member, but I don't believe that there's an annual membership fee that I've signed off on.
It's like a Sam's Club, it probably saves us money.
Right.
That's the goal.
I didn't realize until the description here that you're getting, as Steve was saying, you're getting a cheaper price through this than you would if you went and bid it yourself, because the company has already gotten a serious discount. And so that's good to know. I didn't know that.
Those companies, in my opinion, those companies are looking for municipal contracts, and so they've discounted accordingly to try to go that route.
Well, and they're doing volume.
That's
so they're
right.
gonna-
That's
yeah.
exactly right.
Well, it's been an education, and after hearing so many comments, I think this is the kind of thing that the public needs to know, so we appreciate all of you guys. Dennis, I gotta ask you, how many years you been with the city of Siloam Springs? Get up to the microphone so everybody can hear you.
35 years next
35
month.
years. Started at the bottom, didn't you?
I started throwing trash behind a trash truck.
Yep, started at the bottom, so these young kids watching the TV on our board meetings, you can become a department head and make the big bucks by starting to haul trash. So thank you, Dennis, for everything you've been with the city, working your way up through the management. It's good that you've done that.
Madam Mayor, if I may say, Dennis is also going to be here for another 35 years.
Well,
He
Yes,
doesn't
we
know
know.
that yet.
Yes.
That's what I was wondering. I was saying,
we-
I was about to say, Dennis, if you ever do decide to retire, you need to run for city board. We could use your experience up here. Thank you for everything you've done for the city, though.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve items D and E from the consent agenda? Yes. Do we need to do them one at a time?
You need
Jay?
to do them one at a time, yes, yeah, yes.
Thank you. So do I have a motion to approve item D for the purchase of the John Deere Dozer?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion is approved. Next, do I have a motion to approve item E, purchase of the 2021 Padfoot Soil Compactor?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do you know who that was, Renee? Who was made the motion?
Well, I didn't make the motion.
I did.
Made the motion.
Hunt. And Reed made the second. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion is approved. And the next item on the agenda is Resolution 05-21, the significant development permit for Simmons Foods Incorporated, 316 North Hico Street for their expansion. This also ties into Ordinance 21-02, which is our next item, from Simmons also at 316 North Hico. And Ben will be presenting simultaneously his information for these two items, and then we will vote on each one separately. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. I'm Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. As the mayor indicated, I'll be presenting both the resolution as well as the next agenda item, the ordinance referring to the right-of-way closure. On the resolution for your consideration is a significant development permit occurring at 316 North Hico for Simmons Food. The request is to build a 61,343 square foot expansion to the building, as well as making some renovations to the interior of the building. Here you see the full site plan. The expansion is occurring basically in the middle, as I will circle here. And it's going over a previously paved area that was used for truck parking. Because the site is already developed, stormwater detention is not required, and the parking and driveways are existing, and they are not planned to be rebuilt as part of the development. On this slide, you see how the project will fit in the overall environment. Hico Street, just for your reference, is on the right-hand side, showing how that will fit onto the project site. And with the landscaping, what they're doing is they're adding some new shrubs at the entrance there. The site, as you may know, is very heavily wooded, particularly on the south and west sides. And so that accounts for some of their additional landscaping screening. This is the elevation view of what the property will look like. This is the front, I believe the east-facing elevation. And here you see the site. You can see the area that is prepped for construction with the demolished interior area for the renovation. Staff and the Planning Commission are recommending approval with two suggested conditions. The first related to the lot consolidation that needs to be filed prior to the building permit issuance. And the second is related to the street and sidewalk impact fees. So for the ordinance, this is Ordinance 2102. You're looking at the right-of-way closure just to the northwest of the construction site for Simmons. The proposal is to close two unused alleyways as part of the C.D. Gunter's addition. This is one of the conditions from the significant development permit. And here you see the site plan. In addition to the right-of-way closure, the applicant is also consolidating the lots into a single 15.72 acre lot. This is what like what they did a few years back when they built the main facility on East Ashley Street. They had to do a big lot consolidation for that as well. So here is the same site plan, but I just zoomed in so you can see a better look exactly what the alleys that are proposed for closure. These have not been in public use since the time of platting, and the alleys are the what's shaded in the blue color there on the map. And then this is just the same thing again, but you're looking now at an aerial just to indicate that they've not been used and that the building for Simmons is actually built over part of that alleyway. And finally, you're looking at the site. This is west of the construction. Staff is recommending approval with no needed conditions, and we stand ready for any questions on either item. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Is there anyone in the audience that has a question or would like to make a comment about Resolution 0521? If not, board, are there any questions or comments about Resolution 0521? Yes.
I don't necessarily have a question, but I am very excited to see that we're going to have an expansion and an addition of at least 60 employees. It's always good when we see something coming into our community from an existing company, and I appreciate what Simmons Foods invests into Siloam Springs.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 0521?
Mayor,
Yes.
Move that we approve resolution number 05-21, authorizing a significant development permit for 316 North Hico Street, subject to the recommended conditions of approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Yes.
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 yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is Ordinance 21-02. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Yes.
I'll make a comment on the last one, if you don't mind, to get caught up. So on the street and impact fees, and Ben, I know you're well aware, and so is the street department, that Hico needs to be addressed, that cement and the cracking, and so I'm sure we're gonna look at some impact fees to address that. And if you're not aware of it, wait till the snow's gone and you'll see it. It's pretty self-evident. And another thing to look at as we go out into the future and maybe later this year as we look at revisions to the master street plan, Tahlequah is turning into a major thoroughway. I know we're doing street counts on that, and to connect Tahlequah at Hico to make that, straighten that out, I would ask us to think of considering that to become a priority sometime within.
Madam Mayor, point of order, this is not the topic for what we are supposed to be discussing.
We have a point of order.
Director Allen's 1,000% correct. Having said that, I'd like to also thank the Simmons for purchasing or at least expanding the bank downtown. Looks like it used to be a church. Now they've moved in their office in there. So I'd like to thank them for that also.
Do we have a motion to suspend for Ordinance 21-02?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Motion is approved. Next are staff reports.
Ordinance number 21-02,
Philip.
if I may, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Ordinance number 21-02, an ordinance vacating and abandoning certain rights-of-way within the CD Gunter's Edition number 1 of the City of Siloam Springs.
Thank you, sir. Next will be our staff reports. Administrator's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as I stated earlier tonight, I want to publicly thank the street crews for the work that they've done over the last, seems like 3 days now, in weather that is almost 0 degrees. They have done an excellent job with the equipment that we have, trying to keep our streets free of the snow. The snow was more than we could keep up with, but I think they've done an excellent job. We have now moved into the local residential areas, and I know that there are probably still some streets. I don't know if we've got them all graded at this point in time, but we are working to get there. It's been a challenge, not only due to the extremely cold temperature, but also the approximately 8 inches or so, depending on where you were, and more if you were on the windward side where the snow blew. But I want to just tell the public that those gentlemen have worked very, very long hours and they've done an excellent job, and I just want to commend them personally. There are a number of expenditures to update you on and report to you. You approved a budget amendment at the last board meeting for the police department, so we purchased a 2021 Dodge Durango through a state contract for $33,394.73. The electric department purchased some inventory, pad mount transformers, and a number of pad mount transformers for a total of $36,465, and also circuit switches in the amount of $31,785. And then I issued a emergency order purchase for the water treatment plant. Their HVAC system went out and they had no heat. We originally thought we could repair it, but it completely went out, and rather than trying to wait to come to the board and ask you to move money from the operations to the capital, I declared it emergency and went ahead and spent the $6,487.88 out of operation funds, but it's a capital expense, and that was why the emergency existed, was to just go ahead and get that taken care of. We got the January sales tax receipts in for the month of January compared to the month last year. We're up 6.6%. The county was up 19.2%. We've already talked about the electrical service interruptions. Earlier tonight, you saw me look at my phone, and that text that I received was from GRDA that they have raised the energy emergency level to level 2. Which means that it is becoming concerning. The stability of the system is becoming concerning. So that was at 6:54 tonight. So we'll just have to continue to watch that and hope and pray that it stabilizes. The week of March 29th is spring cleanup. So again, we will be putting that information out there. We ask that people don't put anything out on the curb too early. But anything that you would like us to pick up that we can, please put that down on your calendars for that. As always, I'm trying to keep you up to date on the COVID-19 status. You'll see there, as far as the 14-day rolling average of new cases, we were pretty high back on the 11th of January. We dropped down on the 18th of January. We dropped further. As we've gotten now to the 8th day in February, we were down to only 44 new cases. So it's a positive thing to see those numbers come down. I'm hoping that that's both related to some of the shots that have been given around to the seniors and to the emergency workers. But you'll also notice that a lot of those numbers track fairly closely to the same number of new cases that we're seeing in the school district. So those are positive signs that they are coming down, but I will continue our process of encouraging people to wear their mask, wash their hands, and watch their distance. It continues to be a concern for all of us, and as I've stated before, I think we're all fatigued with COVID. We'd like to get back to something that's normal, and hopefully with the vaccine, we can get there maybe by sometime this year. I don't know when, but I pray sometime this year. So, Madam Mayor, that's all I have, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. This time we're directors' reports. At this time, before I start with the directors, I do have something I want to say tonight. Director Burns asked me last meeting if I had something to say. Tonight I do. I want to, first of all, say how much we appreciate our staff and the job that they have done in all of our departments, keeping our citizens safe, trying to keep our streets as clear as possible so that everyone can get around. That's not an easy job, as we've said earlier, so I want to say thank you to all of them. I also want to say thank you to our citizens. I know this is an unusual time for all of us. All of us have been affected by it, but we do appreciate your cooperation and understanding as we move through this time. We are always mindful of our citizens and anything that we do, how it will affect them. And we do put you first. We do value you. So thank you. And now I will ask if Director Burns would like to start tonight for us.
I'd love to. Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd just like to thank the local service companies that are not upcharging on their services, and a few of them are out there have advertised that. And that's exceptional because that's an easy thing to do for a business during a crisis, so I thank them for that. I just encourage it, if you have the opportunity and you have your household in order, look around your neighborhood, and if you see a handicap sticker and you see a driveway or a porch in disarray and you've got a snow shovel or a leaf blower, I don't have any young kids, but you know, boy, I wish I did this past couple of days. Stop and help somebody. You know, help your neighbor if you can. Let's practice what we preach. And I'm just happy that city staff is doing their job. It's just nice to see hearing them out there early in the morning. When I came over, they're working on some drainage issues on the walking over here tonight. And so they're at it, and I just really appreciate them doing that. I thank Todd for showing up tonight. And when it comes to our energy costs, last year we had lengthy conversation. There are folks in the community that are full of misinformation. But we'll address that on another night. And one of the things I didn't pull, but I think we need to recognize is that the Arkansas Municipal League Defense Program is settling a case on the opioid epidemic, which is massive across America. But I'm glad some revenues are going to be taken from the folks that have created this crisis, and it doesn't change a lot. I know the first responders, PD and FD, have to still deal with that on a regular basis. But that is something that we just forget. It has impacted our community and many families within our community, so I think that's worthy of noting. I'll go back to hit Simmons one more time. You know, in the summertime I get a complaint, and last year we worked diligently, and I say we, the city, worked with some issues with Simmons filtration systems, because there is an odor that occurs with that kind of processing. I have no doubt come this summer we'll address that further. I know Simmons has sunk a lot of money into trying to address that. But anytime we have industry expand and is prospering, I know we had a lot of concerns about the plant moving between Gentry and Decatur, and we felt we lost out on some of that revenue, but there's expansion occurring. You know, Cobb moved in, took over an old building that had a lot of history. The bank that was a church, and now it's back in the Simmons office's expansion. That's important for the day-to-day life of just downtown. And I think the goal is when I read our sales tax drop below double digits, you know, I felt, man, I was depressed. I'm like, what are we doing wrong? Then I'm realizing we're still up. You know, but the goal in my mind's eye as a board member representing Ward 2 is how do we keep that into double digits? How do we create that new tax base? So I just really appreciate the board considering the healthy conversation when it comes to electrical charging stations and looking forward into the future. And so I really just thank you guys for being on board with that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Marla?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to address the issue with the hospital not having their backup generator up to where it could take care of what it needs. Is that something that we need to help them with, or is something we can offer to do? Or?
Well, they worked on it today. They were diligently getting it together, and the last report that I heard from the hospital, they had it up and running.
Good. That's scary.
It was scary for everybody, and I was remiss and didn't say it earlier that Bill Stokes and his staff recognized that we needed to do everything we could, and they found a way to switch the power for the hospital and for the local dialysis center to get them off that first circuit, so that they're now on the third circuit if we had to go down the list. So it's very important. We didn't want to shut the power off to the hospital at all, but they were on that circuit. So after that, they worked all day today to get that swapped over. So that's a very good thing. I should have said that. I apologize.
That's wonderful. So we want to let them know that we appreciate that. That's a big thing to have to tackle in, within 5 minutes to make a big decision like that. So it's nice that we can put our faith in the people that we have that work for the city. And I just want to speak out about the city of Siloam. This is one of the best towns around for organizations stepping up and working together. Perhaps if there's a need at the school, I've seen industry step in. I've seen private individuals step in. It's just amazing how we care and are concerned about each other. And I just cannot express how thankful I am to live in a community that takes care of each other. And being raised here, I saw it growing up, and it was instilled upon me. And I just, in these times we have right now, just exactly take care of a neighbor. If there's something you can do, take their mail to them, so they don't have to get out of the house, because we just got a few more days of this weather, but COVID's going to be around for a while. So let's just make sure that we continue being the kind of community we want to be, where we take care of each other. And last thing, I want to wish my husband a 40th anniversary tomorrow. Yeah, he put up with me for 40 years.
And they said it wouldn't last.
Yeah, exactly. So, but thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Marla. Lisa?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to say thank you for the employees. They're not just doing their job, they're going above and beyond doing their job, because they're not affecting a couple hundred people. Thousands of people are affected. And even just seeing them out there and knowing how cold it is. I was out there at 5 a.m. this morning, and it was 16 below. And the first thought that came to my mind was, how are they doing this? I can't even stand it for the 30 minutes I was out there. How do you do it? And that's going above and beyond, putting yourself at risk for the safety of our citizens. And I also want to say thank you to, our streets are wonderful, and our water and sewer out there, everybody's out there working. Our fire department is too. My 93-year-old grandma is on oxygen. Her thing did not work. She called the fire department. They ran over there, made sure her oxygen came right back up. I mean, it was amazing, and it was wonderful that we get that kind of service in Siloam. You would not get that kind of service in a bigger city. And I appreciate that even at 93 years old, that she is considered important to do that. I do have a question on the charging stations. On the one by the library, and this is just a question, could we put, because the idea is, like we talked about, is if somebody from Rogers or Fayetteville or somebody came over, could we not put a board up showing a map of the area, the shopping area, the area that shows them, oh, here's what you can do while you're being charged? while you're charging your vehicle, and encourage them to, you know, spend money in Siloam Springs, or even sell advertisement space, or I don't know. It was just a thought that if somebody from out of town comes in and they're not familiar with an area, that map would be a great indicator where they could go. And again, I just want to say thank you to everybody. And Philip, I know you're tired. I can see it in your eyes. Thank you for working so hard and keeping us updated on the information. Thank you.
Thank you. Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Normally we get to talk about the police department and fire department as our first responders. But I've been able to see this weekend, that our public works deserve just as much admiration for the first responding that they do. I have been out and about just doing the work that I do. I get around town, and I've seen our police out there. I've seen the fire department out, but I've also seen the city public works departments getting our streets prepared. And I know I'm a broken record here from what the first ones have already spoken about, but very impressed. And I want to jump on something that Dennis had said earlier. You know, when we asked him about parts of his job, you know, when he asked how many dozers there are, he says, I have 2 dozers and I'd like another one. You know, he didn't say that as a sense of pride like they're his, but he has taken ownership of that as part of his job. And I think he's not alone in that, in the employees that we have with this city. And I'm very proud to be a part of that, and I appreciate the 35 years that Dennis has put in and that he's representing well. And those that correlate with that, I applaud you for that, and thank you. That's all, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Carol?
I'm probably just going to echo what everybody else said. I think you all can see that we have a very dedicated and it's a hard job. It's not just on a bright day, a sunny day, a warm day. They're out there, whatever the condition, and they've made a dedication to the city and to you, the citizen, to make sure that you have the services that you need. And there is today, yesterday, in the last few days has been a very unusual circumstance. Do you think they like that? Do you think they like when citizens don't have the heat that they need? They don't. I don't like it. I want all of our citizens to be taken care of, however we can do it. But sometimes things are out of our hands. And we have a city administrator that is doing the best he can do. He is hitting it out of the ballpark. We are very fortunate to have somebody that can take charge and make those quick decisions, because that has to be made, whether we're notified or not. And we do have a good notification system. We all got calls at 10 o'clock at night. If you are getting calls or don't have reports, if you would go on the city website and sign up for I think it's called Red Code, or Code Red, I guess.
Code Red.
I love our citizens. I want them to be safe. I want them to be warm. I want them to be healthy. And if there is any suggestions from our citizens that can make this better, please let me know.
Madam Mayor, before, one other thing to add to that on Code Red.
Yes.
I did hear some individuals say that they had signed up for Code Red, but they didn't get that report or that call. And I believe on Code Red, you can choose the types of various calls that you want to receive. So anybody who has signed up for Code Red and didn't get that call, you may be signed up only for weather notifications. So please check your Code Red account and maybe sign up for all of the various notifications that might be available to you if you did not receive the ones lately about the energy emergency. I apologize for interrupting.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for jumping in and offering more, because we do want our citizens to be notified. And we have various ways. I know that along with getting the phone call, we get text. Sometimes you might think it's annoying because your spouse or other people that are living within your household, you get all those different notifications. But it's necessary. It's necessary. We are committed to you. We want to do the best for our citizens. And again, I do thank all of the staff of the city of Siloam Springs, all the departments, not just one or two, but every one. Thank you, Madam Mayor, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Carol. David?
Did you skip Mindy, or is she gonna be the one that does
She's
the
going to
tap
be,
out tonight?
she is going to end us up.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't supposed to do it at the end. I want to tell our city administrator, Mr. Patterson, for you've done your job bringing the status of the EV stations, and if you don't, we're not going to be made aware of it, and we appreciate it. And these type of programs, whether they're federal, county, state, whatever, we need to know, and so we appreciate it. And whether it's staff that says we should do it, it's this board that decides, and you know that, and it's not going to hurt your feelings. I mean, this is something that, hey, 2 weeks ago I was like, do it. And then you hear from constituents as you start thinking about things that no one's thought about except people that are not, in the loop, just thinking. They're thinking of other things. And so it's good that we can come back and as Brad was saying, have debate about things. And so I just want to tell you thank you for bringing things like that to us and really researching it, because I wouldn't have known a tenth of what you brought up. But I do know that this technology is changing all the time. So as I said, if we can do both, I'd love to do both. In terms of the power points that my friend Todd brought up at our open hearing, I thought he had some good questions. I think he was speaking from the heart with what he's heard from townspeople, which we need. We need people to come let us know, if not privately, at least come up here and let us know. But I was not aware, Philip, until you explained that these gas wells have froze up in Texas. And that is a huge part of what powers the electric industry in the South. And so that certainly has caused a lot of problems. I saw a video where the wind farms in Texas are completely frozen up, and not us, but Texas gets a lot of their power from these wind farms. So those blades are completely locked in place from ice. But basically what it comes down to, this was not a decision by the city of Siloam Springs. This was not a problem, even though we have our own electric company. We did not say, hey, we're just going to shut down everybody's power. This was provided notification, but as Philip said, sometimes you got to flip a switch to keep people's oxygen machines at the hospital running. And I think everybody understands when you have an emergency like that, it is an impossible situation that you just have to make the best decision. And we appreciate someone who could do that. This was a supplier situation that really was affected to every city, and I feel fortunate that we did not just automatically get the whole city shut down like some of them did. I got to tell you, I can remember the last huge storm with power problems. I think it was 2012, and I got to say, people in Oklahoma with Carroll Electric were out of electricity for 3 weeks plus, and I can't even fathom being out of electricity for that long. But we were fortunate in the city of Siloam when we did run out of power or had power lines break, actually, because it was more of an ice storm. Most people were no more than 4 days. Some of them were much less, maybe a day or two. But we have the best people in the world in terms of longevity of being with the city. They have seen so many different things of what needs to be done. They're proactive. And that year kind of blew my mind in that these guys were out preventing lines from being destroyed by tree limbs by using shotguns to shoot the tree limb, which was preemptive strike basically, because of how other people had lost their electricity from tree limbs knocking out the power line. And it was because the heavy ice just really weighed down the trees. And these guys were sharp and smart. And I should say, guys, it was the whole team. Art Farine leading the department at the time, Johnny Bland, Glenn Severn. They all were thinking ahead. And that's the kind of proactive group that, you know, is thinking for the citizens and trying to prevent a problem before it becomes a problem. So I appreciate them, and I know that they've been out there doing this same type of thing. I do want to thank every city employee. I am very appreciative of those who are in the harsh environment, and it is harsh. We all know they're putting their all into serving the citizens. They have a true spirit of being a public servant, and they are the unsung heroes in Siloam Springs. In terms of the opioid contract that we approved earlier, for later on for our information, I was just going to ask Jay if he would explain in an email or something to us on the contract how that pot would be divided amongst the counties and cities. And is it dependent upon the size of the city or the county? And you know, and then I was going to ask, does AML, are they getting a piece of that, or are they only getting paid by as a council?
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
What you authorized AML to do on your behalf today is to negotiate with the state and the counties of how to divide that money should there be a settlement with the opioid manufacturers and distributors. That settlement that they are working on is to split that money a third, a third, a third. So if there's $1 million, let's say, that comes from that, then the state gets a third, counties get a third, and the cities get a third, and then that third, $330,000, is distributed amongst the cities, more than likely distributed based on population. Okay. That money would have to then be used in programs that would go to mitigate and reduce the opioid epidemic.
Right.
But all of that is still being negotiated, but that's the reason for the agreement to let them negotiate, to have something to say we are negotiating on behalf of the city of Siloam Springs.
I knew it said counties and cities. I just didn't know the state was a party there too. Yes. So I get that. I appreciate it, Philip. Thank you. And then regarding my asking the points of the purchases to be taken off, you know, you have proactive citizens who get on and look at the agenda and start asking questions, and I will just read a quick email here that I received from someone that made some very good points. There are 5,382 households in Siloam Springs. It is their money that is being spent. With the expenditure tonight of a total of $335,592 on two pieces of equipment, it comes to $62.35 for every household. I think our residents might prefer that we lower their utility bills by $62.35 this month rather than buy brand spanking new 2021 pieces of equipment. And I will add in right here in the middle of the email that we voted at the January 19th meeting to spend $246,000 and $284,000 at the February 2nd meeting. And so since the beginning of the year, since I've been inducted, we've approved spending $836,000 on brand new capital equipment, mostly large machinery vehicles. And after this total is taken into account, in less than 2 months, we've spent $155.35 for each household in Siloam Springs. The constituents email goes on to say most of these residents will not be buying new cars this year for their families, but we use their money to buy brand new equipment. I would like to see a rationale for why we need it. How often will these items be used? Is this something that could be rented when needed? Does our existing equipment no longer work? Does it need repaired? Did we get quotes? Our residents do not buy cars or even refrigerators or sofas or a new pair of shoes without shopping. Google makes that easy. Did our department heads do any Googling before submitting this purchase request? Before we essentially knock on every door in town and ask for $62.35, you should ask that question. So, and then at the end they say $5,382 or 5,382 households divided with $1 million being spent, it's $185.80 per household. So I just wanted to let everyone know what just one constituent is noticing and asking questions about in terms of expenditure. And it is a good question in terms of, is there a possibility of buying used equipment? Or is it possible to get more quotes? Something I learned tonight was the Sourcewell program, you're gonna get a better price than if you go bid it yourself. I did not know that. So, you know, it was a little bit more of an educational eye-opening for me tonight to learn more of how that works. And, you know, I think it's always good that the public learns these things as well. And then I also lastly just wanted to say thank you to Simmons Foods for expanding their plant. Anything that does benefit the business and provides jobs is a win-win for all the citizens of Siloam Springs, and we appreciate the Simmons family very much. And that's it for me.
Thank you, David. Mindy, your turn.
Well, I could say what he said, she said, she said, she said, but that wouldn't be any fun, right? Director Burns wants the full-out report. I wish that citizens could watch at least the first part of this meeting when we did talk about the charging station. And in terms of our budget, that's a relatively small item, but I think it was a really good example of how we can work together, from the city administrator bringing information to us about an opportunity, us considering that, then hearing from the public, their input on it, coming back with that input, and then discussing as a board, and then coming to an agreement as a board. I just think it was a really good example of us being able to work together with the city administrator, the city staff in mind, also the citizens in mind, because ultimately the citizens are who we report to. But I think we came to a good solution, and I think sometimes it's easy for citizens to think maybe they aren't heard, but I think we do make attempts to hear, discuss, take their concerns into consideration before making final decisions, and I appreciate that about the other board members, the city staff. I appreciated Mr. Varnado coming, expressing his concerns, and Philip responding to those. Hopefully people will watch that part as well of this meeting, because I think that is a good explanation. And it's hard to understand. I have a hard time understanding all of that. It's very complicated, very technical. It's hard to understand. But these decisions weren't made willy-nilly, if I can say that. They were some tough decisions that had to be made very quickly. You mentioned that these freezing temperatures are uncharted waters. I would agree with that, as has been COVID, as has been a tornado a couple of years ago. Not that we haven't had tornadoes in this area, but we had a pretty significant one a couple of years ago. The last couple of years have just been hard. But you all have risen to the occasion. The staff has risen to the occasion. I think sometimes it's easy as citizens to think, oh, well, they should have done it this way, or they should have done it this way. I would have done this. I think you all have done the very best you can. Could things have been done differently? Possibly, but where things could have been done differently, we've learned from those things. We've moved on. You all have done the very best you can with the situation, with the information you've had, to make the decisions that you've had to make, and I appreciate that. And my word for the last couple of years, really, during the more tumultuous time we've experienced as a nation, has been grace. And I just feel like that's something that we need to keep in mind. Just extend grace toward each other, toward those people who are making tough decisions, toward those people who are frustrated by tough decisions that were made that become inconvenient. We just need to show each other grace during these difficult times. Respect each other, remember each other, help each other. It's tough times we're living in right now, but I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. We will make it through all of this, one way or the other. So, anyway, thank you, staff, for all of your work. Thank you, board members, for being willing to discuss some of the issues that citizens have brought to our attention. And with that, I move that we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
And
Oh.
I move that we stay safe and warm.
Yes. Do I have a second to that?
Second.
Who made the second?
Somebody second?
Brad.
Director Burns. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.